Okay, so GK Icon, tell us a bit about it.
Right, the real, I suppose, basics of the idea is to connect young goalkeepers with top quality goalkeeper coaches.
Yeah.
For a long time, goalkeeping's kind of been overlooked a little bit. There's a ton of football schools out there, a ton of people doing stuff catered for the outfield players, but maybe not enough specific stuff for goalkeepers. So the whole idea with GK Icon was to, one, heighten the knowledge of goalkeeping and what it takes to be a goalkeeper, and offer children and young goalkeepers the opportunity to really improve what they do.
When did you come up with the idea for GK Icon?
It was something that struck me years and years ago, because I think things have improved, but certainly back in the day there was very little specific training. Even when I was 12 years old and I joined Watford, even then I wasn't getting goalkeeper training. It was only really when I was 16, by which point when you're 16, 17, 18 you've already picked up a lot of bad habits, and it's that much harder to shake them at an older age. So real simple thinking was, if I could link some of the sort of high quality professionals that I know, a good quality brand, some great coaches, that we could have something very special, and thankfully it's going that way.
You said back then that you didn't have much coaching in terms of goalkeeping wise. Do you think it's because goalkeeper's not a fashionable position to play in?
To an extent, I think it's a bit of chicken and the egg almost, in that you've got, arguably at the moment, there's not many English goalkeepers that kids will watch and maybe hold in the same light as, say, like the Peter Shiltons, the Gordon Banks, Ray Clements, etc. back in the day, and that's an argument at the moment. So you've got a lot of kids now that want to be Lionel Messi, Ronaldo, whoever, and not necessarily a goalkeeper, which is fine, and we want to try and buck that trend, because I think certainly in Spain and America, their goalkeeping's a really sought after position. I'd argue it's the most important position over there. Certainly with the likes of Casillas, Valdez. Well, in Spain there's a ton of them, and it's, obviously I would say it. My thinking is, it is the most important position. If you've got a good goalkeeper, that sets up the team.
So you run courses. Can you tell us a bit about them?
Yeah, we do. We've got several now. We do it as we've got a sort of mixture of say franchises, which we sell franchises to coaches that want to branch off what we do. They have to be a minimum level 2 goalkeeper coach, and we only really allow quality coaches to franchise off us. And then we've got the ones we run personally, which at the moment we do via academy goalkeeper coaches that work in academies and also do some coaching for us on the side. So it's, in theory, kind of bridging the gap between the professionals and the grassroots.
Can you tell us a bit more about the team you've got behind you and the coaches?
Yeah, we're very fortunate, really. We've got, in terms of people that are connected with what we do, professionals, we've got several that have put their name to what we do and have helped with the kind of curriculum that we put forward, including Ben Foster's probably the most notable name. In terms of coaches, we've got coaches that are linked with, off the top of my head, QPR, Crystal Palace, Watford, Cardiff, and a couple of other professional clubs as well. We've got the manager of GK Icon based in Ipswich, and he's 24/7 on the phones to parents and people that are interested, trying to promote the idea. And it's been great. It's taken a long time to get to this point, but it's now really starting to take off, and we get a lot of kids come through.
As you said, you're just starting to take off now. Has it been a hard process, harder than maybe you thought it was going to be at first?
It has. And I guess it's been, for me, a really good learning curve, certainly business-wise, because initially the idea was there. We had the coaches in place, we had a great concept, we got a great brand and everything else. And in hindsight, I didn't put enough into the marketing. It's perfect world, you would create something and everyone interested in goalkeeping would know what you're doing, and no doubt it would be a success from the off. And initially, I think I tried to run before I could walk. We had to scale it back down, and now we're building it again slowly, and it's proving to be the right thing.
And what's the response you've had from people like parents and other fellow professionals?
Really good. I think that, again, the whole idea being that there are a ton of quality coaches out there, but most coaches, whether they work in academies or at clubs, they'll have their job and that'll be what they do. But then you get so many kids that miss out on these opportunities, and there's so many lads out there that have got so much talent, and girls that have got so much talent, but they'll never realise that talent if they can't put in the quality coach, if they can't put in the quality training, which it's a real simple philosophy. But if you're a 8, 9, 10-year-old goalkeeper and you want to be the best you can possibly be, then you need someone coaching you several hours a week, as well as putting several hours in of your own time in order to maximise what you've got. There's actually a book that I base a lot of what I do, a book called Bounce, which argues that you need to do 10,000 hours of quality training in something to become exceptional at that task. So it goes without saying, if you have never had goalkeeper training, then how are you ever going to become a professional goalkeeper?
Does GK Icon encourage all abilities, or is it people really looking to get into a professional game at an early age?
It's all ability. I mean, we've been fortunate enough to have several lads now, I think probably 15, 20 now, that have gone on to professional clubs at different age groups, which is great, and that shows obviously what we're doing is working. But no, it's more, first and foremost, fun. It needs to be fun, and regardless of whether you want to be professional or whether you just want to improve what you're doing for your club. And a big thing we say, and I think most will agree with this, is even if you're playing Sunday League, you're going to enjoy it a lot more if you're a lot better.
Yeah.
It goes without saying, even if you have no ambition to play at a high level, if you're playing really well at the level you're at, then you're going to get more plaudits and people are going to enjoy what you do and you're going to enjoy it more yourself.
I saw obviously Keeper's Corner on your website. That's obviously telling people how they can get involved, but if you want to explain how they can get involved, then...
Yeah, I mean, obviously via the website there's a ton of stuff going on there. We've got, if people log into Keeper's Corner, there's all sorts of drills they can learn from and interviews with a lot of top professionals and bits and pieces, which is all on the website for free. And we've got locations near enough up and down the country now. So if they email us info@gkicon.com, there's, we'll give them information on where their nearest centre is and how they can get involved.
I'm going to ask you a bit about Joe Hart actually, because at the moment, obviously he's under fire, he's made a couple of mistakes. Psychologically, he might be suffering a bit. What could you offer some advice to, obviously Joe Hart's a top goalkeeper, but say youngsters going through maybe the same sort of scenario?
Yeah, well, it goes without saying, goalkeeping, you make an error of any kind, more often than not it's going to end up as a goal, and certainly when you lose a game by the odd goal and you've made a mistake, it's hard to deal with, and I think this has been one of the biggest things we're trying to do with GK Icon, is that goalkeeping, there's very few goalkeepers now that don't get criticised. I mean, most do, and most will make mistakes. In fact, everyone makes mistakes, that's part of it. The big thing that we try and help the lads we're coaching is in regards to how they bounce back, which, if you do make a mistake in the game, it's got to be that then that doesn't ruin the rest of your game, that you can still go on and play a good game and know that by making a mistake, that's going to give you a fantastic opportunity to learn and become better from it. So, I mean, Joe Hart at the moment, he wouldn't need me telling him this. He'll obviously, and he's a great example of someone who's mentally very tough, because despite making an error or two, he's there every week, and he's always putting himself back in the firing line. He's looking to improve, and even when he's made a mistake in a game, you'd never know, because he carries on in the same vein as he did before the mistake, and cracks on. So, he's having a tough period at the moment, but I've got no doubt he'll come through stronger.
Would you advise goalkeepers to change their routine if they're going through a bad spell? Because obviously sometimes, psychologically, if they're going through a bad time, technically they could change or adjust a few things, and maybe that's causing them to make a few errors as well.
Potentially. I mean, there's certainly, talking about psychology, there's a lot in regards to patterns that you go through, and players will go through patterns, goalkeepers go through patterns before a game, and you'll have a certain preparation, and certain people have superstitions and whatever else. And if something doesn't go right, then there's another saying that if nothing changes, then nothing changes. So certainly I'd always recommend changing bits and pieces here to try and improve something. And to be honest, goalkeeping or anything you do in life is continual change. I think the second that you think you know it all and you rest on your laurels is the second that you're in a bad place. So I think with anything, there's always room for improvement, always room for change. And even Joe Hart, who's now won the Premier League and playing for England, he'll still be looking to improve and better himself.
Well, you've been a goalkeeper for a number of years now. If you were given 5 tips to be a goalkeeper, what would you give?
5 tips.
Or 5 things you need.
5 things you need. First and foremost, as I said before, enjoyment. You need to enjoy being a goalkeeper. You need to enjoy the idea of keeping clean sheets and protecting your team. So first and foremost, enjoyment. Dedication. I think if you want to make it to the highest level, anything you do, you need to make certain sacrifices. I think that's important. What do you need? As much as I hate to say this, the way of the modern game as it currently is, you need to be a certain size. I don't think necessarily as big as a lot of teams will lead you to believe, but unfortunately now you don't see many under 6 foot that make it to the very top.
Yeah.
I hope that changes, because I don't think necessarily the tallest keepers are the best, due to some being immobile and maybe not as good technically as the smaller ones. What else do you need? I think, to be fair, those 3, providing you've got a passion for what you do, you dedicate yourself to it, you're looking to improve in all different angles, I think those 3 will carry you a long way.
How can GK Icon help those attributes?
The way in which we run, it's a bit of a holistic approach. So the way that we've looked at it is that you've got certain attributes to be a top goalkeeper, which obviously is a hell of a lot we can teach you technically. Whether that be your W position, whether it be scoops, diving, etc. Tactically, there's a lot that can be done, and even watching games of football can be huge for improvement. Watching the top goalkeepers play, where do they position themselves on the field, looking at their technique, how do they arrange those in front of them, are they talking all the time, etc, etc. So there's a lot that we can do tactically. Psychologically, probably one that gets overlooked and is arguably the most important for a top goalkeeper. We can all be very good technically, but like we're saying with Joe Hart, how many can bounce back from a mistake and improve themselves all the time and keep that desire to want to improve? Even things nutritionally, can you eat that a little bit better? Are there things that are going to make you more powerful, explosive, which comes on to probably my last bit, which is the strength and conditioning angle, physically.
Yeah.
Being a goalkeeper, it's all good and well, you can be technically very good, but if you don't move very quickly, or if you haven't got the power to spring and make that great save, then you're always going to fall just short. So we try and look at all the different angles, and the drills that we put on will incorporate a lot of these things, and that's very much our thinking. And then obviously as goalkeepers progress and go into academies, they can then get further training there and kick on from there. So we try and look at each base and cover each base, and hopefully we're doing that.
You talked about nutrition. What do you tend to eat before a game, or what have you eaten through your career that you've been advised to?
It's changed a lot,
Yeah.
and it's, I think we were led to believe not so long ago that pasta was great and rice was great and this. And to be honest, I don't touch any of that now. It's vegetables, it's protein. So before a game, it's literally chicken and vegetables, which, bearing in mind, a goalkeeper won't need as much energy as an outfield player, because our position is very much power based and speed based.
Yeah.
You don't need tons of carbs. Obviously you're led to believe that. That's not necessarily the case. I have quite a bit of caffeine before a game. There's certain things you're allowed legally to take, which caffeine will make you feel that little bit more awake and more alive, which, again, goalkeeping is very much about concentration, about sharpness. And very hydrated. That's the other thing that's really important. It's dehydration is one of the biggest factors for lack of performance.
In terms of yourself and the outfield players, would you prepare differently in terms of what you eat and what you take in compared to them?
Yeah, I think so. I think outfield players will need more carbs, and it's, again, not necessarily the rule that we're told is no white food, so no white pasta, no white rice, no. It's all, if you can do brown rice, brown pasta, that's obviously a bit better. And you get a lot of carbs as well from vegetables, and sweet potatoes very good and things like that. So it will be different. The way in which I think outfield players and goalkeepers prepare is also very different. Something that goalkeepers focus a lot on is imagery, which is very, very good. And that's going through your performance before a game, imagining the settings, the surroundings, and really preparing yourself mentally for what you're going to face has been proven to be really beneficial.
Obviously, you played in the Championship, you played in League One, you played in the Premier League. How was it different preparation-wise? Do you always prepare the same?
Yeah.
Have you prepared the same for the same league? Obviously there's different challenges in each division, but
yeah.
Have you got any advice
so.
on that, what level you're playing at?
I think so. Naturally, bigger games you may feel more nerves and the kind of excitement, anxiety, whatever you want to call it, for that game. I think a big challenge is to play each game as if it's the World Cup final. It's even if it's a development game or an under-10s game for your Sunday League club, play it as if you're playing at Old Trafford or Wembley or wherever you might be playing, because ultimately you have to do the same things as a goalkeeper. And this is the conversation that I have with a lot of goalkeepers. Sometimes you find the higher up you go, the easier it becomes, because in the Premier League the quality of the balls coming in and what have you, you'll have less touches in a Premier League game than you will in a conference game or a non-league game. So arguably, the lower down you are for a goalkeeper, the harder it is. So that being said, I would certainly say prepare as if every game were exactly the same. You're going to have crosses to catch, you're going to have saves to make, you're going to have kicks to do, you're going to have to play out. There's very little difference as to whether you're playing in a Sunday League game or at Old Trafford. And the great thing about that is it allows you to practice everything you need to practice every single game.
Obviously, GK Icon is about you giving advice to young goalkeepers. At Brentford, the other goalkeepers ask you about advice.
Yeah. We've got a really good group at Brentford now. Yeah. I mean, obviously the lad that left us at the start of the season, Simon Moore, I'm still in touch with now. We speak all the time, and he's great. For me, he's like the example of what goalkeeping will be. He to me epitomises the modern goalkeeper. He kicks fantastic balls, always looking to play out. Great lad. Just the all-round game. Makes saves, catches crosses, etc., etc. The lads at the moment at Brentford, all really talented. You've got Liam O'Brien, Jack Bonham and David Button, all young lads. And I've spoke to them all individually, and it's something I would never force certainly with the psychological side, I'd never force it upon anyone, but certainly if anyone asks me, I'm always happy to help, because I know how much it's really helped me in my career. When I was younger, putting so much pressure on myself, and as you can do with football, wanting to win all the time and really caring about what I was doing, it was hard. It was really hard to take defeats and bits and pieces, but as my career's gone on and I've learned to deal with them, it's helped my performance and it helped everything else too.
Obviously you've got family around you, but do you remember the first bit of advice you got in your career when you were maybe struggling a bit mentally from someone else within the game? Probably one of my biggest, as well as family, friends, etc. There was a guy at Watford called Keith Mincher who was a psychologist in effect, and that was really interesting for me to talk to him and to learn about what he had to say, because a lot of it just made me realise that I could choose how I wanted to be, so I didn't have to feel really nervous for games. I didn't have to feel anxious and all the horrible feelings you can get if you allow them to get to you. So then getting a little bit of control over what I was thinking in my mind has then allowed me just to enjoy it. Because at the end of the day, one of the things I really preach is that there's certain things you can control, there's certain things you can't control. So the things that you can control are what you eat before a game, how you sleep, the training you do, and whatever. You can control all this, but you can't control what the weather's going to be like, or what the referee's going to do, or what someone's going to say about you, or whatever. So by understanding that, you can focus your efforts on things that are going to make you a better goalkeeper and play a better game, as opposed to worrying about something that's out of your control. And then when you simplify it like that and you just focus on what you can do, it does make it a lot easier. You know that you can go out there having prepared as well as you can, give everything you've got, and at the end of the day, what will be will be. Go back to GK Icon. Is there anyone that's been with you the whole way that you want to give special mention to, really?
I suppose initially the lads that put their names to it and helped with the programmes, the likes of obviously Ben Foster, Scott Loach, Andy Lonergan, Simon Moore and several others, they were fantastic. I mean, all the young goalkeepers that have come through our different schools back then and now as it's growing, it's great when I go down to the sessions and see 25, 30 kids there, all improving, and if I haven't been for several months, the improvement you see is phenomenal. Andy Bayford in the office basically makes it all tick and makes it all run. He'll be the one, if you do get in touch with GK Icon, that you'll speak to. And no, it's been a really enjoyable experience. I've certainly learnt a lot on a business sense. I'm going to make it work, and it is working now, purely because goalkeeping is my passion, and I know that it will have a massively beneficial impact on goalkeeping in this country.
When did you first decide, this is what I want to do, I want to be a goalkeeper, I want balls smashed at me? For 20 years. Seems like
an odd thing to do, especially with all the injuries I've had. When I look back now, it was. I'll never forget when I did decide, and my dad was actually really disappointed.
Was he?
Yeah. But this goes back to what we were saying, it isn't a fashionable position, it still isn't, and it should be, it really should be, I would say that. And it was more by chance that it happened for me. It was Sunday League team, needed a goalkeeper, I gave it a go and I got the position. I say I got the position, actually that's technically wrong, I didn't, someone else got it. 2 games later he didn't want to play in goal. So I look back now, that was as an 8-year-old at Bedgrove Dynamos in Aylesbury. And then it just progressed from there. I realised I had a talent of sorts, and the big thing being, again, enjoyment. And I remember, although I didn't have goalkeeper training, without knowing it, I was practicing a lot of what I would need now. So I'd get home every day after school, and I'd always have a ball in my hands, and much to my mum's dismay, I was throwing a ball around the house against the wall and making saves and doing bits and pieces. And I think that really then prepared me and trained me, so that then obviously things progressed. I went through the age groups and got my contract.
Who was your sort of idol when you were growing up? Was there one goalkeeper that you thought, I want to be a bit like him?
There was, like everyone, Peter Schmeichel, until I got to about 15, 16 and realised I was never going to be as tall as him. So I had to change my game a little bit. But no, for me, he epitomised a lot of what a goalkeeper should be. I've moved sort of my direction slightly in that I think it's all good and well. If you're 6'4", 6'5", he's a great role model because he was agile, he was commanding, he came for crosses, he kicked it reasonably well, and just he had the all-round game for a goalkeeper. On a personal level now, I look at the keepers like Iker Casillas, the ones who maybe aren't quite as big in stature, but so much quicker, and I mean, he's technically fantastic, got such spring, so he makes up for that lack of 4 or 5 inches in height in many other ways. So he's someone I look at now. I think in the Premier League now you've got several fantastic goalkeepers, and the game's changed. I look at even Peter Schmeichel now. I do wonder how he would fare in the Premier League, given that everyone's now got the side volley going on, and it's so accurate with their distribution. And now, to be honest, if you can't distribute the ball really, really accurately and in a variety of different ways, then you're not going to make it to the top. You need to be as good as an outfield player in many parts of your game, as well as having all the technique of a goalkeeper. You
said obviously you're not 6'5", but has your height ever held you back in your career, do you reckon?
It has and it hasn't. It has on several occasions when things may have happened and didn't for that reason, which was actually in hindsight was probably one of the reasons, or one of the main reasons I've set up GK Icon, because it does bug me in that you'll see certain goalkeepers that will be given a chance based purely on appearance, and you might have a really talented lad who's only ever going to make it to 5'9", 5'10", and they'll get disregarded at 12, 13, 14, and that bugs me a bit, because I think there are ways now. I don't think height's that important. Height was always important because people would all say they come for their crosses, but how many crosses do Premier League goalkeepers come for now? And it's not anything to do with height, it's about the speed of your feet and the timing and the spring and everything else. And so I genuinely believe someone who's 5'10" could make it in the Premier League. Iker Casillas is only 6 foot and he's arguably the best in the world. What now happens though is not anyone under 6 foot won't even get a look in. And I wonder, had I have come through 5-6 years later, whether I'd have got a look in. But that's the way the modern game. I do think it will change. Again, I hope with GK Icon we can raise awareness and knowledge of goalkeeping, and hopefully make people realise that positioning and communication and all these other attributes that a goalkeeper has is so much more important than a couple of inches of height.
I'll ask you about the pace of the game as well, how that's changed, and the ball. There's always a lot of talk now about the ball, maybe from when you first started playing to now. Can you see a difference in the ball and the pace of the game,
Massively. The movement now is ridiculous on the footballs, to the point now where I know a lot of goalkeeper coaches teach goalkeepers not to catch, which is bizarre. I remember when I first started out at Watford, and we would I'd have to catch 100 balls clean before I could go in, and it would be if I dropped one I had to go back 5 and it was all about catch, and that's now changed, because to be honest, with a lot of certainly the Premier League balls, a lot of the time that I say there's no point in catching, there's always a point in catching, but if there's any doubt whatsoever, you're much better parrying it out into the stands than trying to catch it with the risk of it going through your gloves or dropping down, and as well as the coating that they put on these balls now. They're not great to catch, like a bar of soap sometimes. So it's actually, to be able to punch the ball well and to be able to parry well is now paramount. And it's like I say, I know a lot of coaches now that will teach goalkeepers just a big parry, always a big parry. Providing you do that, people forget about it at the end of the game. They don't worry whether you've caught it or parried it. As long as you've kept it out of the goal, then you've done your job. We actually now do a lot of drills as well, where we will try and replicate that movement. So there's a way in which you can strike a ball where you can get it to do the Ronaldo type movement, and there's nothing worse than a ball that's coming to you that's a dead ball. It's crazy the way in which, and your eyes can't pick it up. That's the thing, when a ball's dead but still and there's no rotation on it, it's so hard for your eyes to pick up the flight, where it is, where it's going. And I've had a few times where I've dived fully and had to go back on myself to make the save because you've just misjudged it the instant that it's been kicked. So the game has changed. I think it will continue to change. I think it's good for the game as a whole. It makes it more exciting.
Yeah.
It does make it more difficult for goalkeepers though.
Is it frustrating when you see experts saying that maybe haven't played in goal and they're like, oh, I think we should have done a bit better there?
Experts, yeah. No, yeah, it is, because it's... the sad fact is there are very few goalkeeping pundits, if any. You've got Peter Schmeichel does the odd bit here and there. David James now is doing a little bit, but there's no one that does it really on goalkeeping, which adds to the whole problem that we've got. It's they're giving opinions on something they don't really know anything about. I would never talk about an outfield player because I don't have a clue. I've got an idea, but you hear the stereotypical beating at his near post or lacks presence or he flaps at crosses, and it's the cliche comments that you hear regularly.
Do you think that puts maybe kids off as well, watching that on TV?
100%, because it's you're getting misinformation given, and the position to a point. It works the other way as well. Keepers will get complimented on saves they make that aren't very good saves. So then you're giving the wrong message, and it's. I love the idea that there would be a goalkeeping expert that could put it to rights. I mean, no, that wasn't a good save, and that wasn't a mistake. Often you'll see them blamed for being beaten at the near post, but it's almost coming in 6 yards out and booms it in the near post. It's not a mistake. Sometimes it is a good finish, and you'll then see keepers go the other way, in which they'll overcover the near post, and they'll get beaten really easily on the far post. But that doesn't get highlighted because it wasn't the near post. So I mean, I could talk about it all day, but I think my point being, the pundits, 99% of them are outfield players, and they're commenting on goalkeeping, which isn't right, and it's not helping goalkeeping on the whole. And certainly for kids, why would you want to be a goalkeeper when a lot of the time you're seeing them getting slated for things that aren't always their fault?
Obviously that happened to David De Gea a couple of years ago. It turned into De Gea watch every single week, slating him, punch it. As you said, he's one that does punch a lot. He will not catch, and as you said, that's probably to do with how the game's change, and it's probably a bit like that with Hart at the moment. And as you said, if a goalkeeper makes a mistake, it's usually end up in the back of the net. If a striker misses a chance, he'll probably get another one. But that's what he's saying. It's massively highlighted, and
that's why I give massive credit to De Gea, because, like you say, that first couple of months was brutal. And credit to him. Saying about making changes, he did make some changes. I mean, if you remember what he looked like then, he looked like a kid in goal almost, with a big baggy kit, and he didn't look like he should look. And that sounds ridiculous, but appearance plays a massive part. Body language plays a massive part in being a goalkeeper. And now you see him, he comes out and he looks the part. He looks confident. He's been there, he's done it now. He's proven himself. He's stepped into the shoes of Van der Sar, which isn't easy, and he's really progressed, and I think he'll continue to do so. But the things that were being overlooked, even back then when he was having a bit of a tough time on crosses and a couple of other bits, his kicking was superb and still is. He drills it out to fullbacks, to wingers. He will keep possession more than most goalkeepers, therefore it will allow Man United more opportunities to attack, and he's therefore a much more valuable outfield player than any other goalkeeper in the league, arguably. So he brings a lot to a team. So even if the odd thing he doesn't do right as a goalkeeper, what he's giving to the team will far outweigh that. And I think that as time's gone on, he's obviously put a lot of work in on his cross-taking, and as you say, he punches a lot, which is fine. He gets good distance. He's a fantastic shot stop. His spring is ridiculous, which again, because ordinarily people look out for mistakes or saves, he gets to a lot of balls that the average goalkeeper wouldn't get to. You can see his spring is ridiculous, and he now is very much the model goalkeeper and the future kind of goalkeeper, modern goalkeeper to a large extent, which is where I think Spain have done a lot of good things, because you look at the majority of their keepers, they've all got certain things in common. They're all very good at distributing a football, all very athletic, very powerful, and he's just growing with each game at the moment.
Looking at Brad Friedel, Mark Schwarzer, 40 years of age, still Premier League goalkeepers. Why do you think keepers can now play on for so long? Maybe longer than they did in the past?
I think the biggest thing with goalkeeping is that a lot of it's mental. So naturally, the older you get, the more that you learn the game. So I think you'll never necessarily lose that. The things you may lose, maybe a certain amount of power, which you would naturally lose as you get older, and maybe a bit of athleticism and what have you. But where I actually know Brad Friedel from my time at Blackburn, he was very heavily into yoga. The benefit of being a goalkeeper is that you're not running in the way that an outfield player would run. So your body's not going to take as much of a battering in that sense. Obviously diving around a lot, so you'll get bits and pieces there, but longevity, you have got the chance of going on for longer because it's not as physically demanding. You're not having to put in 8, 10, 12 kilometres a game. You know, you barely break a sweat in a game, if I'm honest. But a lot of it is concentration, it is mental, and the likes of Brad Friedel, great example, as you say, he's just so consistent in everything he does, and even if he has lost a little bit of kicking power, or even if he has lost a bit of power in terms of his diving technique, his all-round game is so solid that he'll give you a very solid base to build off, and that's what he's built his career on. And you know, massive credit to him because he's been superb.
Have you found that in your career as well, that maybe as you got slightly older, physically it's maybe a bit harder, but mentally you're more prepared for what's happening during the game? Have you found that?
Yeah, it's a strange one. It's almost as you become mentally stronger, your body's given up on you. You know, and I've been unfortunate with injuries certainly, and that's made it tougher. And I've had to be a lot more clever in how I train now. Because when I was younger, it was plyometric training, which is a form of spring training and power training, and it was all about getting as big and strong and quick as I could. The problem with all that is that it does put a load on the body and obviously takes its toll. So yeah, it has got harder as I've got older to do that side of stuff. But then I think gameplay, I've improved. You know, even sort of last season when I did play the odd game, although physically I was a bit of a mess when I needed some work on my shoulder and a couple of other bits. But I got through the games fine without doing any training. You're able to play it in a different way, I think, the older you get, because you can see things before they happen, and you can almost play for the back four, you know, and really position them how they should be and keep on them in a certain way that takes a bit of time to learn. And I'm hoping now that I'm fully fit, physically feeling great, that I can hopefully kick on again and reach new heights. That's very much, you know, my personal goal.
Yep.